On a February evening in 2012, 17-year-old Trayvon Martin was returning home after a simple trip to the store. He had bought some candy and a soft drink, carrying them in a bag. He was wearing a hoodie, a common piece of clothing for a teenager, not knowing that this item would soon become a symbol of tragedy and injustice. Meanwhile, in the same neighborhood of Retreat at Twin Lakes in Sanford, Florida, George Zimmerman, a volunteer neighborhood watch patrolman, was on duty. His task was to monitor the area, as burglaries had become more frequent recently. Zimmerman noticed Trayvon and thought the young man was acting suspiciously, walking slowly and glancing around. Without hesitation, Zimmerman called the police to report the suspicious activity. The police advised him not to pursue or approach the young man, but Zimmerman ignored the dispatcher's recommendations and decided to act on his own. He began following Trayvon. Trayvon, walking home, noticed that he was being followed. His unease turned into fear. A verbal exchange occurred between the two, an ordinary teenager just trying to get home, and an adult convinced that he had to stop a crime. No one witnessed the start of the conflict, but it soon escalated into a physical altercation. At the critical moment, Zimmerman pulled out his gun and fired. A single shot, and Trayvon fell to the ground. When the police arrived, Zimmerman claimed self-defense. He said Trayvon had attacked him and that he had no choice but to shoot in the struggle for his life. Trayvon Martin's body remained on the ground, near the bag of candy and the drink. Zimmerman was not immediately arrested. The police took his word about self-defense. For many, this became the first of many questions about justice. Why wasn't there an immediate and thorough investigation? Why was a young black teenager simply walking home instantly perceived as a threat? Soon, the story gained momentum in the media. Social networks picked up the issue, and protests erupted across the country. Trayvon became a symbol for those who saw in his death not just a tragedy, but the result of systemic racial inequality and profiling. As days passed, more and more people demanded to know, how could such a killing be justified without a proper investigation? Under growing public pressure, Zimmerman was eventually arrested and charged with second-degree murder on April 11, 2012. An investigation was launched, and in June 2013, the highly publicized trial began. Zimmerman's lawyers argued that he acted according to Florida's Stand Your Ground law, which permits citizens to use deadly force if they feel their life is in danger. They emphasized that Martin was the one who allegedly struck Zimmerman first. The prosecution, on the other hand, stressed that Zimmerman should never have followed Martin, initiating a confrontation that ultimately led to the teenager's death. On July 13, 2013, Zimmerman was acquitted. The verdict shocked many across America and the world. People took to the streets in protest, believing that justice had not been served. Trayvon's death, and the acquittal of the man who killed him, marked a turning point in discussions about race, self-defense laws, and gun violence in the U.S. This case became one of the key moments in the birth of the Black Lives Matter (BLM) movement, aimed at drawing attention to racial injustice, police brutality, and inequality faced by African Americans. Since then, Trayvon Martin's story has resurfaced in the wake of other tragic incidents involving police violence and the deaths of black citizens. Over time, Trayvon Martin's case transformed into a symbol of the broader struggle for racial equality in the United States. It became a reflection of deep issues in the justice system and long-standing inequalities. Trayvon's name echoed during the 2020 protests after George Floyd's killing, remaining a symbol for those who continue to fight for change. This is not just a story about a young boy who lost his life. It's a story about a nation grappling with its history of racial injustice and ongoing systemic issues. Trayvon's name, and those of others who have fallen victim to racial violence, have become symbols of the ongoing fight for black lives and a more just legal system. In the years following the trial, Trayvon's parents, Sabrina Fulton and Tracy Martin, became prominent activists, turning their grief into a movement for change. They established the Trayvon Martin Foundation, dedicated to supporting young people facing discrimination and injustice. Their work spread beyond Florida, resonating with those who believed that the voices of youth and marginalized communities were not being heard. Annual memorial marches are held to honor Trayvon, where participants wear hoodies, the very symbol he wore on the night of his death. This simple piece of clothing became an emblem of resistance and a reminder of how easily prejudice and stereotypes can lead to tragedy.